I have two incredible warrior women today. I'm just going to introduce them right off the top. Here she is, Jess and Taryn.
Hello.
Hey, ladies, how are you?
You're awesome.
Awesome. It's great to see you. Now, you two are what I call warriors, warrior moms, and you two call yourselves like the extra lucky moms.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us. We'll start with Jess. Tell us, why are you called an extra lucky mom?
So an extra lucky mom to me, and why we really decided that was the moniker we were going to go with, is because first, extra represents the extra chromosome within Down syndrome. Lucky is how we feel to be their parents and care for them and love them. And lucky is because we feel lucky. And when Taryn and I aligned, we became girlfriends first, and then advocates together, and built our organization, Extra Lucky Moms. We wanted something that incorporated our why, but also was broad enough to include all different types of disabilities and really celebrate, being a disability parent and a disability mother. So that's the why behind Extra Lucky Mom.
That's cool. I'll put your website up here so everybody can check it out. You two are just amazing. You have this book out now. It's called Dear Mama.
Mm-hmm.
It is an awesome book. It's got some really great stories in there. I have to say, having a child with Down syndrome is, for those that don't know, I know it can be scary initially. And what is the purpose behind this book? To help with that? Tell us a little bit about this book and what its purpose is.
Yeah, we both, and I think we'll talk about this too, but we both, when we got our daughter's diagnoses, they were very clinical, very medical, filled with statistics, all the things that could go wrong. And I think we both there was such a gap in finding hope and also finding some validation for some of those hard feelings that we were feeling. Like, it's not that, wherever I always say, like, wherever you winds up is the important part. It doesn't matter how you get there. So some
Right.
people take, it's a different journey of grief, and that can look different for everybody and take a different amount of time for everybody. And that's okay. And I think just finding some validation in those feelings and knowing, like, hearing somebody say that everything will be okay in the end, but that it will be hard. You don't want to just flood somebody with overly positive information either. Right. When they're kind of in the thick of navigating some of these feelings. So kind of helping somebody understand, there'll be ups and downs, but you'll come out the other side and you'll be okay. And whatever you're feeling is okay. So we wanted to create, we've created that basically already in our online community and our blog, but we wanted to create something that was tangible, that somebody could be handed at a doctor's appointment or by their friend or their mom or whoever maybe purchases the book for them, so that they could leave it on their nightstand and pick it up as they're ready, on and off, and know that it's a safe space. Because sometimes when we step into, social media, we don't know what we're going to find. So it can take somebody a long time to kind of go and find support online. Right. But this book can just exist and be there when they're ready to open the pages and find whatever they need from it.
Have you had any success getting this book in doctors' offices and different places that is your goal? Have you had success with that?
Yeah, so far we've been growing that whole like direction of marketing, and we do have a bunch of doctors that have already purchased it, a bunch of hospitals, as well as we had a genetic counselor that purchased it, which
that's
we were
great.
Like, when we saw, Jess and I see every, we're at this point where we cheer for literally everything. And when we saw that email come in, we were like, oh my God, it's like our dream,
that is cool.
It's our dream audience. Because really the purpose of the book is for the moms, like the audience anyway is the moms, but we also we want the medical community to read it too and understand what, moms have gone through and all of that, to just understand this landscape.
Yeah. We have a wholesale program for hospitals and nonprofits because yes, our dream is that along with the clinical medical delivery, hopefully a neutral diagnosis delivery that's being given to the mother or the parents also comes, the hope that we all need. The book filled with letters from different moms. And, within this book, we have 13 different disabilities represented. So we really wanted to make sure that we could have touch points on all sorts of differences so that each mom can feel seen and heard. But the theme is really the same for everyone. Everyone kind of went through the grief experience, devastation, then falling in love with their child, acceptance, celebration, advocacy. And then in the end, there is this beauty and hope, but we wanted to make a book where the entire experience is represented appropriately so moms feel seen and heard.
That's cool, because everybody gets scared of the unknown. If you're going into anything unknown, it can be scary, no matter if it's a new job or if it's a birth of a child. If you've never done it and you're scared of the unknown, no matter what it is. And that's why I call you two, amongst many others out there, just warriors for this in itself, and having a book out. I think that's just awesome. It is really awesome. And when we come back after this brief message, we're going to hear each of yours, Jess and Taryn's diagnosis story right after this.
My nanny always say, shine your light, by your moment, by your heart and joy into something you really want to create. And I do. I create Made with Love.
If you're looking for positive and uplifting movies that empower actors seeking to shine their light, you'll be blessed to check out Made with Love, a movie to show the love and value of individuals with Down syndrome, and to star our best friend Jay. The world sure could use a lot more love, and you can make a difference. Be a part of this project. Visit madewithlovethemovie.com to learn more.
And we're back. Jess and Taryn, two warrior moms, and just a little bit of background before you go into your diagnosis story. Now, Jess, you've been all kinds of things, and just tell me a highlight besides being a New York fashion model. Turned DS Down syndrome advocate. That's pretty cool. And tell us just a little bit of background for you, Jess, and then Taryn, tell us a little bit, just a little brief bio of you each.
Sure. So yes, so I grew up as a performer and actress and model, spent a ton of my childhood and sort of college years and post-college years doing that, pursued acting and modeling in the city and had some great success. It was a blast. However, I met my husband, we fell in love, and the life of a model and an actor is really crazy and you don't have a normal schedule, and I just had enough of the grind. And ended up getting into like the corporate fashion side of things because of my experience in the fashion industry on the modeling side, and worked my way through styling subscription websites. I then went into the marketing side and worked for like large fashion conglomerates and their marketing departments. And then I ended up a nonprofit consultancy. And after that, I had Adeline, and I experienced, this whole new world of advocacy.
Wow.
So it really completely shifted my career trajectory.
My entire life.
But what's interesting is if I look back on all of these experiences and jobs that I've held, they've really all served the larger purpose that I'm doing now. I'm still using a lot of the skills that I needed to be, on the runway or like in front of the camera, because it's all helping to build this brand now. So it's funny, like, when you're young and you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, or is this the right choice? Now I look back and the culmination of all of that combined has really created a beautiful journey for me.
It was building up to who you are now, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
And Taryn, tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Mine is less exciting, but I spent like 20 years in financial technology in New York City, and kind of worked my way to the top there. Ran a global team as before I decided to just step away for a little while, just to focus on, it was like post-pandemic. I just felt like my family needed a little more of my time and attention at that point. I have 4 girls. My youngest daughter was born with Down syndrome, and 2 weeks into the pandemic, end of March 2020, she was born. So it just felt like the right time to, be at every pickup and all that stuff. So that's my story.
That's awesome. I mean, and I think, people from all over the country, whatever background you have, and I've talked to so many, especially that are involved in the Down syndrome community, it changes their entire life.
Yeah.
But one thing I found that is really common with them is, and not every case, but not every person, but is the diagnosis of you're having a baby with Down syndrome. Jess, and everybody has their own different experience, but there's a similarity with a lot of them. Jess, do you mind tell us about yours?
Sure. So my diagnosis story was a birth diagnosis. So I was pregnant with Adeline during the pandemic. We had we did genetic testing. Everything came back looking typical and healthy and fine. She grew on track. I did have I had surgery last year to correct spinal stenosis in my spine. So I was getting extra monitoring because I had to take a little bit of medication to help with that pain. So we were not anticipating anything at this birth, but to just celebrate this new life that we were adding to our little family. So I currently, at the time, had she was only 3 at the time. And so we went to the hospital to have a C-section, and we're having the C-section, and they call my husband over to meet his daughter for the first time after they, successfully get her out. And there's this like sort of just panic and silence feeling in the room. Like when silence is loud, it was like that.
You cut it with a knife.
Yeah. I heard them. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could hear that this pediatrician was just kind of being very, saying something to him that was upsetting him. And my husband all of a sudden started to pass out.
Oh, wow.
And leaves the OR. And, I thought he maybe saw me open on the table or something.
Right. That's probably common, yeah.
Yeah. Well, what had happened was the pediatrician on call was brought in because they noticed a lot of physical markers of Down syndrome on my daughter. And instead of bringing us together or waiting for a moment to tell us in a beautiful way and supportive way, she just goes, your baby has Down syndrome. Look at her neck folds, starts pulling up the skin on the back of her neck, showing her sandal gap on her foot. Just like the moment he met his daughter being accosted with all of the things that's wrong with her. And it made him literally pass out. It was so horrible. And, I wrote about this experience in a there's a lot more about this story that's in the book. I wanted to share this because it is so difficult to read. And it's so much more common as I've gotten feedback from moms and individuals that have read my letter being like, oh my God, that literally happened to me. The same thing happened to me, And so I'm really glad I kind of went there. I was like, it's going to be raw. It's going to be tough to read, but I did. And she wasn't breathing very well. So they rushed her to the NICU. I never even got a chance to touch her before they took her away. And I didn't get to meet her for close to 18 hours because I had a C-section and it was COVID and they had all these rules and you had to be able to walk to the NICU in order to see her. So it was horrible. It was really, really horrible. And then we weren't allowed to go in together to spend time with our baby. We had to kind of come and go. And then I spent the next 3 or 4 days inspecting her because I was convinced she didn't have Down syndrome. She was, in my head, I'm like, there's no way she has Down syndrome. But then we got to the karyotype testing back and she had Down syndrome. And that began my journey of acceptance. And, I fell in love with this little delicious angel. It just completely changed my life. But her beginning of her life was horrible.
Well, I mean, it sounds like they were just like, look at this, kind of just like really.
It's awful.
That's why
it was like a specimen, not
right.
like,
right. Not you just had a wonderful baby. Yeah.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Wow. Have you ever gone back and said anything to those people that said any of that, or did you feel like it, or what about your husband? Was there? I'm sure there's feelings of, saying something, but not that it even mattered.
Yeah, well, he, after they took her away and we were in the recovery room, the doctor came up to us and, we found out that there was some ratio-based testing that had been done in the second trimester that ended up not being shared with us. So, he let her hear his opinions on that.
Yeah.
I do have a dream of writing a letter to that doctor. I never heard from her again. I'm just not really quite ready yet. I don't know what I want to say, but eventually I think I will put it into words, like what her behavior did to our family and, how insensitive and terrible it was. I had to go to therapy and I had PTSD and, it was not okay. These are people's lives. It's not, you have to have empathy even as a doctor. So I think one day I'll reach out.
Yeah. Now, Taryn, let's hear your diagnosis story.
Yeah. So I was pregnant with my fourth child, and we went to our first trimester screening, my husband and I. And honestly, the only thought in my head was like, okay, now we'll get to post on social media because everything's okay, you know. And all of a sudden, similar to what Jess is saying, they're doing the scans, and all of a sudden, this, the tech stops joking around and gets very quiet. And I kind of had this feeling, and I didn't want to say it out loud to my, after she left the room and said, okay, the doctor will be in soon. I didn't want to say it to my husband and put something out there, and put it, start stressing him out, because I was like, maybe it's just some weird feeling I'm having, So sure enough, she comes in, she's very quiet, and she says, oh, the nuchal fold is thick. And I knew immediately, I was like, okay, I knew what that meant, because that was, kind of one of those screens that they always were checking for every pregnancy. And they said, they gave us options as far as further testing. And we elected to have a CVS, a chronic villus sample. I always mess this up, test right then and there, because I am not someone to wait. I need to know. I'm a planner. I need to know things. And I didn't want to wait 4 weeks for an amnio. I didn't want to wait the whole time with the probable. I just wanted to know what was going on. And I sort of knew, in my gut, I'm like, something's going on. And I remember my husband and I were driving that night, after we had the further testing. And I said, to be honest, I hope it's Down syndrome. And he was like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know, because I feel like, there's a lot of things that it could have been that were life-threatening. And I was just like, if it's Down syndrome, that's not bad news, Mm-hmm. So, we got the call maybe 5 days later. Again, it was just a phone call to me, not asking if my husband was there, nothing. And after the news was delivered, it was immediately, did you and your husband talk about what you would do in this situation? And I knew what that meant. Right. And I said, no, we honestly didn't talk about anything because, we didn't have any information and there was nothing to talk about yet. So she was like, okay, well, call me back. And, I called back the next day and said, look, we're continuing along. What information do you have for me? And there was not much. So they set me up with my next appointment, which was at 16 weeks. And at that appointment, they found a hole in her heart, which was, I was in the few weeks that I had in between those two appointments, I had done all the Google research that you could do. And I knew that there was a very high likelihood that she would have something going on with her heart, because it's like a 50% chance that individuals with Down syndrome have some sort of heart defect. So it wasn't shocking information, but again, in that appointment, it was like, hey, you have till 22 weeks to change your mind. And, you know, I had made it clear to them multiple times, like, we're continuing along, like we're okay. And it just felt like the rest of the pregnancy felt like I was continually justifying like why I was having my child. And it started to make me feel like this really stressful, monumental change was happening to me, because when a doctor is presenting something with like, hey, by the way, you can terminate this pregnancy, it makes you feel like it just puts more weight on the whole thing.
Right.
So, you know, I just felt like I had this cloud over me for the whole rest of the pregnancy. And it almost felt like the minute she was born, I was like, the cloud, like the sun came out, you know, because I knew like in that moment that everything would be okay. She did have to have open heart surgery at 2 months old. Sometimes I almost can't believe how easy that was. Like, so, you know,
it sounds scary.
I kind of like brush over it in her story from time to time, because it just, you know, she did so well with it. It was, it's like amazing what infants can, you know, withstand. So, you know, her heart is fully repaired. She's, you know, she's been healthy this whole time. Honestly, like even before her surgery, I felt like I was, you know, she was healthy. Like there was nothing unhealthy about her. So we're grateful. It was like a cloud, like I said, hanging over me for that whole time.
Would you both say like going through this experience has propelled you to advocate for those with Down syndrome, propelled you to form an organization and write a book and do all this stuff? I mean, that's just amazing to me. And that's so wonderful. Jess, you've even done commercials, with your daughter with Down syndrome about, let's take a quick look at one of them.
As an extra lucky mom to Adeline, who has Down syndrome, I recognize how important it is to celebrate each and every milestone. The most recent milestone we've been focusing on has been walking. Addie has been getting pretty good at holding hands with me while heading to a new destination, but then falling down once I let go of her hand. Luckily, our new Fisher-Price Steady Speed 2-sided walker has been helping Addie progress seamlessly with her walking. Sometimes it's necessary to get creative with therapies and overall progression to ensure we're allowing our kids to play, progress in their abilities, and just be kids. Look at her exploring, dancing, engaging, and just having all-around fun with this walking engagement toy. Just watch out, world. Here comes Addie.
That's awesome.
She's
I
so
love
much
that.
bigger than that now. I'm like,
I know, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I mean, starting her young in commercials, and it's so cool that you've been able to do this, though, in and of itself.
Really, it happened. It was a happy accident. So, you know, this was actually, I started sharing on social media. I've always had a social presence, but I really started focusing on TikTok around the pandemic. And I just shared my life and what I did every day, my girls. And that was sort of advocacy, right? I just wanted to show that you can have a typical life. Like you go on vacation, you go on a date night, even with a kiddo who has Down syndrome or disability. And it started to pick up and I started to get some viral videos and I have, now I have this big following on there. And I never sought out to be a content creator, but now it's been so much fun. I get to partner with really, incredibly inclusive, huge brands that are also helping promote Extra Lucky Moms. You've heard it here first, but I'm doing a ad with Huggies. And
cool.
Yeah, so that's actually, it's live right now on TikTok. Over 2.5 million views currently. And they reference Extra Lucky Mom, or I reference Extra Lucky Moms throughout it. We call her our Extra Lucky Addie in the video. So like brands are really tapping into this narrative and like helping us spread the joy of disability parenthood. And it's been so much fun. It's really fun to get to just be with my kids and also work.
Does part of you say it's about time kind of thing?
Oh,
Yes. Yeah.
I'll put a link in this interview for that video. You can just send that to me. We'll put a link in it in the description of this video. That is awesome that brands are doing that, because you hear so much nowadays about cancel culture and everybody getting canceled, and it's good to see the other side where people are being uplifted and we're showing, giving representation and awareness about Down syndrome, because it can be scary diagnosis, and that's what they're giving. But and at the end here, I have a video of Taryn as well. We're going to show at the very end. But one last question I'm wondering, and I'm positive, have either of you gotten any negative pushback at all from people? I'm sure you have at some degree. Anything stick out?
I don't think, it's interesting. I think, there's always like one troll that find their way to my page every now and again. That just happens when you have a bigger following. But I don't, and I can't speak for everyone. I don't want to speak for Taryn, but it really does. This is going to sound crazy. It does not bother me, because I truly feel sorry for them. Like, they do not get it. They don't get this joy. And it's like this little secret club that I get to be part of. And so if someone's taking the time out of their day to say something negative about my child, or like this beautiful light in the world, like, that's a them problem. That's not a me thing, And then I just delete it and like move on with my life.
Right.
There was one comment recently on my TikTok that I responded to because I felt it was a learning opportunity. And it went a little bit viral. People really liked what I had to say. And because I think there's a lot of ableism in these comments, people are like, oh, you shouldn't, she's taking up space and blah, blah, blah. Like, she doesn't deserve these opportunities. And, I think what's important to recognize is that no one is above disability. Like, anybody can be disabled at any time. I could get in the car right now and get in an accident and lose a limb, or have a cognitive deficiency because I hit my head. Like, no one is above disability. And so the idea that ableism exists is so vain and just ridiculous to me, Yeah. So I think the most common like negative thing that people will say to me, or I've seen them say it to other people, is like, oh, well, she's going to live with you your whole life. And I'm always like, I would actually be okay with that. Yes. I'm like the mom who tells my kids, like, see that college like in town, like, why don't you want to go there? Because I also just feel like I don't know how that's insulting me to say, like, if you're raising your kid, like, first of all, my daughter, even at 3 years old, has enough independence that I'm like, she's not going to want to live with me. I'm going to be the one who's like, can you stay? And she'll be like, bye, mom. Her and Addie will probably have like they'll be like in their own apartment, like
where I'm living. But I just, to me, that's not an insult. I enjoy all my kids' company, and if from time to time they need to come home, I'm fine with that.
Well, I'm gonna put your all's website up one more time, and they can find out all about it. Get a book there. Check out all your posts and your blogs and everything. It's amazing how many people I've even come across, and how many organizations, the community itself. I had no idea it was this much, and I think a lot of people just discovering it are blown away how much there is. Yeah. And I'm so happy that there is.
So thank you for being someone not even in the community and being a fierce advocate. We really appreciate.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, it's just having my eyes opened so much. I'm just like you said, it feels like I'm in a secret club. Doesn't anybody know about the school club? I've done some volunteer work and I went to a place that has to me, I felt like I was going to the school of the gifted, not the school of the disabled. I wonder why no one else knows this.
I know.
It's just kind of a thing, and I'm so glad that I'm happy to promote and be within the community and advocate for them all. Check out their website and see what it's all about.
Thank you so much.